Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. And here we are at our weekly Wednesday, our first weekly Wednesday of the year. And happy to see you all. And looks like because of the Zoom registration, people are coming in slowly. Yeah, I see more people coming. And looks like this whole Capstone Lab team had some meeting going on. And so I see them coming in now. Okay. So we are going to continue on with our weekly Wednesday like we always do. Do you see the lack of books on my background? I'm going to replace it with a whole bunch of new books, but that's not the story. Our Christmas tree got delayed. And so I ended up taking all my books from all around the house and stacked up and made a Christmas tree. And till our new tree showed up, So we didn't feel like dismantling that. So we have two trees. So I'll have to figure out which of the books come back here. And I obviously read a bunch of new books during the break. So you'll see that come back here. So if you have any recommendation for me, I'm all ears. Okay. So hope you all had a good break and Happy New Year. How's the new year started for you? Are you feeling more hopeful? And if you're new here, you know the drill. If you're here a regular, you know the drill. If you're new here, this is our weekly Wednesday gathering, and we look at the latest in tech. And I'm Sudha Jamthe. I tend to go between the gaps between technology and business. And sometimes we have an invited guest. Sometimes I take Q&A. So today we are looking at where to focus to pivot your career in 2021. So what I did is we started out 2020 with a similar career pivot. And we said, what has changed in 2020? And boy, did I know what I was talking in 2020, in the beginning of 2020. So, and for the people who are new, the way we do this is we actually have we do a lot of chat on the windows. So you can chat away. Okay, feel free. I'm just going to make sure I open the chat so I can see you guys if you're saying anything. Yeah. And we have an international group of people here. So be sure to connect with each other because that is the big part of fun here. Okay. Okay. So we are looking at 2020. Where should we focus in 2020? So I wanted to go back to where we started in 2020, in 2021. Where do we focus in 2021? So I wanted to go back to 2020 when I was naive enough to say, hey, where are we going to focus on? And I remember we did a couple of career pivot sessions. In fact, we started the career pivot sessions only in 2020 beginning. And we said, how do you pivot to AI in 2020? How do you pivot to AV? We did one on how to pivot to AV data. And if you are coming from just the invite, just a reminder that you get onto the invite and get this as a calendar invite. But the recordings go up under Career Pivot. So go to Driverless World to Career Pivot. And if it's something that you have not signed up, then you need to sign up to get access just for privacy reasons. But you'll be able to find the past Career Pivot links there. So one of the things I remember doing is, other than just saying Career Pivot here at in our weekly Wednesday, I also did a talk at IoT Innovatech, which is one of the best IoT conferences focused on Latin America, and I did this whole career pivot in COVID times, and they had that as a digital conference. I think it was in September. It was amazing, and I looked at that too. And so what I found is couple things changed in 2020. There were a lot of surprises, not so good surprises throughout. There was the pandemic and we were grounded, and we start off 2021. I feel very hopeful, and I honestly, I'm this big optimist, so I believe this is going to be a year of healing. And in fact, I think given our discussion about privacy and things we didn't like in tech, and how so many people have taken the initiative to go change that, I believe this is going to start a decade of healing in a certain way, not just with the pandemic. But coming back, so chat away, uh, from a technology perspective, what technology is what is the one technology that you see that got prominence in 2020? Because one of the things I heard from my students who work in various tech companies is, there was, because we connected remotely, we worked from home, um, and there was, of course, Zoom. So don't tell me Zoom as the answer, tell me something else, because we focus on IoT, artificial intelligence, and data. My favorite topic, and autonomous vehicles and mobility. Those are the topics we kind of recycle and talk here to find what's the latest, where is it going. So tell me, what do you think changed? Like, what industry or what technology uh, took off in 2020? Unfortunately, because of COVID. And chat your answers away. I want to go back, and obviously you can go back to our career pivot in the driverless world school, but I'm hoping you'll remember, or you'll just go from your experience. What do you see as one of the technologies that has picked up because of COVID and 2020 and the quarantines that we still have today? Any suggestions, any comments? Yep. And chat your answers, please. Okay, Emmanuel says contactless delivery. Yeah. So, yeah, I see cloud computing. Yeah, everything is in the cloud and coming back. So for remote access, um, intelligent chatbots. That's true. That's true. Yeah. So when we talked about AI, I had mentioned three areas of AI, and we had a speaker in Revati who spoke to us about NLP. So intelligent chatbots is run by NLP, and that's one of the ones that took off. So now it's kind of become mainstream. So you go, because we didn't have people for customer service, that obviously gave us more reasons, but also there has been a moment to pick up the support angle in on uh, on websites. So it's customer service, all kind of interfaces to a chatbot interface, and I think there's more technology companies that have kind of taken off because of the increased demand. So they're integrating into all kinds of corporate systems too. So it's not just customer service. So chatbot is like a chatting interface. Um, yeah, cloud computing is for everything, right? Because everything goes to the cloud, and that's how we get remote access. So that has taken off. Um, I want to go back to what Emmanuel was talking about, contactless delivery. So as we are in the pandemic, we got more and more things delivered to us. So yes, we got contactless delivery. What kind of technology changed because of that? What technology was used more or excited? What area was that? So I'm a big fan of KiwiBot, and I have shared a lot about KiwiBot, but I did not see any of the delivery bot companies who had the bots, the autonomous bots, do any kind of delivery for me, because they were not set up to scale yet, right? They were building up, they were testing. So one of the things we spoken about autonomous vehicles is we would get more autonomous delivery, autonomous trucks, and the like, other than self-driving cars. So what is the technology behind contactless delivery? That's my question. Or what kind of technologies were used more to facilitate contactless delivery? Quiz time. I'm enjoying this quiz time. I hope you guys are liking it too. Okay. So the contactless delivery could have been the delivery bots, but it is also a whole app-based menus. Yes. So it's a whole e-commerce system because we got delivery from, we had this apps from where we request the deliveries or a mobile or a web-based interface. So it's e-commerce, I would say, because it's not just getting you what you want, but the shopping experience. So shopping, I think, went up the roof. I'm hearing somebody's voice. Yeah. Okay. So e-commerce shopping took off, and there was all these stats about how Amazon was hiring more and how much the revenues were going up. It's not just Amazon, but the whole Instacart went public. There's a bunch of delivery companies. So I see people here from LATAM. I see people here from Germany. I see David here from Ireland. Are there other delivery companies that picked up in other parts outside of US? Can somebody share something with me? What is the other delivery companies that took off because of this whole pandemic? Delivery Hero. Oh wow! Thank you, Karsten. Okay. Is there a delivery bot equivalent to KiwiBot that you guys were? Is there one? I heard there is one in UK, but I forgot the name. Yeah. Okay. I keep talking about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and show you KiwiBot because I've been saying this for a while, right? Let me see. KiwiBot. So KiwiBot does the delivery. Do you see the KiwiBot delivery bot, guys? Yeah, are you able to see that window? Let me get out of others and show you just that screen. One second. Starship Bots, thank you. Is Starship Bots the one in UK, David? Are you guys able to see my sharing window fully? Yeah, you're able to see the KiwiBot? Yeah? Can somebody confirm? Are you able to see the KiwiBot window that I'm showing? Because I want to show the video of the KiwiBot. I am a fan of KiwiBot, but David, maybe you can get us a hero bot delivery sometime. Yes. Thank you for confirming that, Roberto. Okay. So this is KiwiBot crossing the road in Berkeley. Okay. Actually wanted to show you the other one where I was chasing it, not crossing the road one, the other one. Here. And this is, a feat of autonomous. So this is the same as in our self-driving cars, self-driving trucks. That's the beauty of it. That is my reason for excitement about it. But like I always talk about, start with the customer and the problem that we are going through in our capstone AI lab class. You take the problem, understand the customer problem, break it down all the way before you build a solution. And I think that's the beauty of what KiwiBot did. Instead of just saying, hey, we can build something autonomous and here we build a vehicle and start running with it, they said, we are going to do autonomous food delivery. I see a comment from Emmanuel who says, I think now majority of people will be open to have a delivery bot compared to before COVID. People see the advantage of bots. Yes. And David has said Starship are from Estonia, but operate in the UK and US. Thank you for that, David. So the thing with delivery bots is that it is the the more they were able to do this, they were able to get more training in front of real people and real situations, and so that actually improves this whole autonomous driving, and that is the underlying technology. But the important point is what Emmanuel is saying, right? Finally, in autonomous vehicles, an important business driver is acceptance of people. So when we were talking about will we get autonomous vehicles, and is it going to be self-driving cars as robotaxi, and we've been talking about that for a long time. And in 2020, in Arizona, when Phoenix, Waymo decided to actually launch autonomous self-driving cars as a robotaxi and as a paid service. And there's been a bunch of videos of people trying that, and it has been pretty safe. But the model has not been tested, and we don't know whether everybody is going to accept autonomous taxis. In fact, during COVID delivery, what was the one use case where we had autonomous delivery? What was the autonomous delivery about? Do you remember? We did cover that in the beginning. That instead of autonomous taxis, we could have autonomous taxis, and we could all be driving, taking one of those taxis that like Waymo was giving, and we could have continued on with our mobility. But what got arrested was our mobility. And do you remember the example of the autonomous vehicle that, and what delivery did it do? It's back. AVs were used in COVID test kit delivery. That happened in May. I'm still in a nostalgic mood, so bear with me as I keep going back to this. But what I want to do here is, we started out 2020 with something, I had a new book launch with my AIX book, and I had different plans. I was teaching the AI course for the first time in Stanford. It seems like ages, but everything changed. And then I think we kind of got into a time warp. So now when we get into 2021 and I say, hey, I'm feeling optimistic, you could say, yes, we have the promise of the vaccine, but we've not seen it and nothing has changed. That just hit me yesterday when I was in a call, that we are still online, we are still on Zoom, and rest of it is the promise and the hope. And so what I wanted to do is, I wanted to look at what technologies got adoption, because some technologies got adoption, some companies benefited from that. But there was also the customer shift that changed, like my manual is saying, that we are more receptive to accept delivery from a delivery bot, and that is okay. If you remember, in our business of AV data course, Mr. Varga was talking about this project that they are doing in Volvo with Singapore University, where they actually have the delivery bot, which is autonomous, communicating with the delivery bus, so that instead of doing the last mile delivery, it is going to use the autonomous bus to communicate, to hop into different locations and just do the last mile delivery. So if you're just going to switch to autonomous bots, there are going to be too many of them. And so this is one of the ways of doing, where there's going to be this network of autonomous bus and bots, and they're testing that. So coming back, all of the AVs have been in test mode, and we got the self-driving taxi here, and I've heard of a self-driving taxi in China. And what we saw for real is, intuitive ways of using autonomous vehicles. And one of them was what Mayo Clinic did. In fact, Usha had seen this in Arizona at Mayo Clinic. And she called me and said, oh, I wanted to take a picture of it. Thank God she didn't, because she was driving, so it's all right. So this was COVID test kit delivery, which made logical sense. But if you think of it as scaling a business, that is where I keep talking to all of you, that the technology of autonomous vehicle is about getting the autonomy piece, and the training data is, all of us out in the street. But building an application like this COVID delivery. The other one was, I think, CVS Pharmacy here in US, in Texas, specifically in Houston, used autonomous vehicle to deliver medicines to senior citizens. And again, all of these are pilots. To scale from the pilot is where you are needed, because it has to make economic sense. We need designers. That's where AIX designers come in. You need to build that design experience, and none of that has happened. We do not have the AIX design experience for AI beyond for machine learning interfaces. So it's called MLUX. I'm just going to type that here. So that is one area I would say MLUX or machine learning UX is picking up, and it has been on a steady increase, and that's not going to go away. All the delivery bots are still in pilot mode. All the autonomous vehicles are still in pilot mode. But the switch is that there is a shift in consumer sentiment that we are okay with delivery bots, and we don't think, oh, it is autonomous, and instead of humans is that doing it, because we've seen the value of the delivery. So thank you for that. Okay, so I want to go back. So what else has changed? What is the one technology that is kind of common everywhere, but we are seeing it everywhere? It's there. It's picked up because of COVID, because of the quarantine. And we have so many of these technologies, which is becoming mainstream. And it's a double-edged sword. What is that? That is one technology, or I would say one device. I'm giving you a clue. One device that became so prevalent that we just had to make it work for us. And then it comes with its controversy. What is that? Let me say one IoT device, one connected device that's more common everywhere because of COVID. We're doing remote work from home, but this is not just Zoom calls. Zoom calls, yes, I already said that Zoom doesn't qualify because everybody would say Zoom, but yes. Yeah, even with Zoom calls, we are able to do this because we have cameras, right? So I was going for cameras. Cameras are everywhere. And in fact, one of the things we have got used to is cameras are watching for us. So here I'm going to share another screen. I'm going to show you and this is an example from Bolivia, but we have cameras everywhere. In every possible situation, cameras are watching for us. So this is where when you enter office, they are looking at whether the camera is watching person's face, and for privacy, they've kind of blurred out the face, which is a good thing. And then they're doing some kind of thermography using infrared. So they're checking for temperatures. So other than checking for temperatures, the cameras are just watching whether you're wearing a mask. Cameras were watching whether you're keeping your distance with people that you should, right? So that is where it gets a little big brotherish, right? Instead of just the camera watching and getting information for you, now it is actually monitoring for you, and it is kind of telling on you. That can't be a good thing. So I want to show you another video. Am I still sharing the screen? I got out of the share. Thank you. Okay. So what I'm doing is I went to CareerPivot, where all our archives are sitting under Driverless World School. I put together a lot of AI application, and I'm going to show you this one. And even if you're not registered or anything, you can see this. This is a local shop in Thailand. The camera is watching and does face detection and lets the person go in. Can we redo that? See, it says whether, okay, the person is wearing a mask. Now it opens the turnstile and lets them go in. So that's a common application of cameras. And in fact, I have a student who works in a camera company who was telling me about how the sales have gone up many folds. And again, what's the technology behind this? So cameras are watching, and they're checking whether we are wearing masks, whether we are keeping a safe distance. Forget checking the temperature part, because that's a different kind of sensor. Just talking about cameras watching everywhere. So For cameras watching and checking whether we are wearing masks, we are behaving, right? What is the underlying technology behind that? Tell me what you guys think. Chat away. So what we are doing here is we are looking at what changed in terms of technology in 2020. And of course, there are Zoom calls. Of course, there is a lot of cloud computing. So if that's your area, that's fantastic. Obviously, we have more NLP applications and we have more intelligent chatbots everywhere. So if you're focused on AI, NLP, that's a perfect area. And then we spoke about delivery bots, and then I'm talking about cameras. So what is the technology behind the cameras? Or I'm not thinking about the technology of how the camera works. By deploying cameras and creating these applications of the cameras watching us, what other technologies have become more important? And it's a controversial one. It's a very, very controversial one. What is that? So we saw this example of the camera watching the person and checking whether the person is wearing a mask, and then it lets them in. And if they don't wear a mask, it's not going to let them in. So what technology is behind that? AI, yes. Computer vision specifically, and facial recognition. Thank you. So in terms of AI, NLP, we spoke about chatbots. And you guys are so smart. You came up with it. I didn't have to tell you. Facial recognition, specifically computer vision, cameras watching everything is the other thing, right? So in the same area in CareerPivot, I have a bunch of other applications that I've listed where the computer vision detects, farms. Computer vision is used in several other areas. It's used in the robots. There's Porsche manufacturing with KUKA robots. I have a bunch of those listed in the same CareerPivot area, so you can go look at that. So that all comes to computer vision. So if you're excited about AI, that's an area that is useful to focus on because that's a big one. But specifically, as I said, technology by itself is not going to find its way to customers and build a business. We need product managers, we need business managers, we need designers, we need all kinds of AI translators who are between the technologists and the data scientists, between the data scientists or technologists and the business user who's going to come in. So with cameras, one thing is there's going to be data from the camera, which is images or videos, and it has to be processed and it has to be made sense of. So there's a whole application layer that goes with it. That's where facial recognition comes in, because you look at the image and you say, this is a face. In that same picture of the mall, they identify the face. You might be carrying a bag. You might be, the camera might be just looking at the mall and not see a face. It's not doing anything. So it is identifying, object identification. It goes back to what is already in autonomous vehicle technology. So it's exciting for me because I talk about AI and many other things, but I find that all of these are back in the AV and mobility world. So object identification and person identification, it identifies a face. So facial recognition, that's where it gets controversial. So again, we've had a bunch of very good speakers come in and talk to us about facial recognition. I think Rebecca's talk was there, focused on that. And the privacy issues, the bias in identifying faces correctly, that kind of thing. So facial recognition is one. Now I want to take a step back. So in building that application, remember I said one of the things that shifted. So one shift is we accepted certain technologies like delivery bots, more NLP and chatbots, and a lot of remote connected experiences. That is a customer shift. So when you're building, and then the technology is there's a lot more cameras, there's a lot more AI, and autonomous vehicles are accepted in the form of delivery bots, which is seems to becoming accepted more mainstream. But what is powering it is the e-commerce engine behind it, and I would say it's the data behind that. And the data is doing a good thing when it is actually creating an algorithm and doing a best match and giving you what you want when you shop. for the delivery bot to bring it. Or if it is going to be facial recognition and it has bias, then and it is snooping around and looking at, playing big brotherish, then it's kind of crossing a privacy barrier, which is kind of the negative side of it. So coming back to the application in the mall, to make an application like that, what is involved? You need the camera, you have the facial recognition technology. What is involved in building that application? Think of it from your role. You could be a designer. Who else do I see designers, I see business development people, I see test engineers, I see product managers here. um, so what is your role? How would you build? What is involved in building the application? Tell me, what are the different roles involved in building that application in the mall? So somebody said, hey, this would be useful for the customer, especially those of you who are looking at the whole AI problem statement development. Where do you get started from? One starting point is understanding what's the customer problem you're solving. And they said, we want customers to come to the mall and not stop coming to the mall. Why? What is the pain point? It will affect the revenues and the mall business wants to keep running. And so they said, okay, the customer problem is we want to make them come to the mall and still feel safe. So we will watch for people wearing masks and keep social distance, then people can continue to come to the mall, right? And to do that, they said, okay, we are going to use technology. And they decided to use a camera and use facial recognition, or identification of wearing masks, which is not as bad as facial recognition. It's just identifying, but it's collecting a lot of data. It has other data on when people came. Is it going to keep the data? Is it going to dump the data of as soon as people came in, it opened and let them in? Is it storing the data? And now it knows who are the kind of people who are coming, what age groups are coming, what time of the day are more people coming or less people coming. All that gets collected. Is that a decision somebody's making? Who's making that decision? So what is your role if you were to think about building that mall application for your local mall and say, okay, we can use cameras and use and facial recognition to check for people wearing masks? What is the one thing you would do? Chat away, guys. What would the one thing you will do? Receive specific problem from the customer. Who is the customer here? Is the customer the mall? Is the customer the mall shops? Is the customer the consumer who is walking into the mall? Who is the customer? But a very good one, Olga, that you will start with a specific problem for the customer or the consumer. Okay, so that's a decision Olga has made. She's saying, okay, I'm going to look at the consumer and what is their problem. And you could look at it from the mall customer, and you could say that could be something that they would want to solve for, because that's a business pain for them. So the consumer, if you look at it from the consumer point of view, then the problem would be defined differently, because the consumer is not thinking, hey, I have a revenue loss. The consumer is going to say, I want to feel safe to come to the mall. And the business is going to say, I want a lot of people to come. So they could make a decision saying, we are going to let only 50 people come into the entire mall. That would be a revenue loss for the mall, but that might make the consumer feel safe. Remember when the whole COVID restriction started, we had shops that they said, we want to keep social distancing and we'll allow only 7 people to come in. And when they come out, the next 7 people can go in. And they did that in many of our shops. And there were huge lines, and they did not help the consumers because people were lined up in the parking lot. So the mall operator, idicing the mall operator. So if you're looking at it from the mall operator point of view, then you're saying, okay, it's a revenue loss. I want continuity of my business, and I want to keep that engagement with my customers to keep coming into the mall. So the thing I want to focus on is, as I promised, the gap between technology and business. It's easy to say NLP is picking up, computer vision is picking up. There is a lot of data and machine learning, and just focus on that, or this autonomous delivery and the bots, right? But to make that happen, you have to start with the customer problem, and you see if it is the problem that you're focusing on the customer as the mall operator or as the consumer, The final technology is a camera watching, doing facial recognition and identifying a customer and having some kind of turnstile open in an automated fashion, yes or no. and and there's some data that is collected around that. So that could be the same system, but the customer empathy by which you're doing, why you're doing, and decisions you'll make, or whether you're keeping the data or you're storing the data, all that would change, and the customer experience of how you would do would change. And the business side of it is, you're going to spend some money to make this happen. Are you buying this technology from some vendor who's shopping and who's stopping by and saying, I have the solution, and selling it to all the malls in the world? And how you would go build that as a product, how will you productize that experience? That is where you would come in. And what would be the cost of this? And are you now coming back to 2021? We have the cameras watching us, and we have a lot of connectivity, a lot of devices have been connected. And so there is all this remote to facilitate remote access to devices, remote monitoring of devices during this COVID time. So now when we get into 2021, uh, what is the biggest mobility of data that's going to happen? This, remember when we started the year, one of our very first session we had was about tracking COVID data. And we had all these graphs and visualization, and we could track, and we could do projection, and we could find out at a country level, at a county level, and compare with how the shift happened in different countries and all that. There's tons of dashboards and stuff that came. So what is the big data that you're going to see in 2021? You said that we have adapted the delivery bots so we could continue shopping. So that could be one. We are seeing cameras everywhere, and they're watching us. And I just said we have more NLP, we have computer vision, we have machine learning, those three areas. We have autonomous vehicles getting more acceptance as delivery bots. And this whole world of applications that's being built around that, that is calling for your experience. What else? So what is the data behind all this? What data, or is there some other data? It might not be related to all of this. There maybe there's some other data. What data do you think we are going to see? There's going to be a lot of mobility of data. In fact, Sneha hosts this all the time, and she let me drive this for the first week to just set the stage on wrapping up 2021, which we already did as a quiz. So I'm kind of in the quiz mode. I'll get out of it, and then where we'll focus on 2021, and then I pass the reins back to Sneha Jadhav, our in-house IoT PM, who's built digital twins with devices, and she's actually working as a data PM. So we are going to be focusing a lot on this mobility of data, and where is that? And when I say mobility and data, it's kind of throwing us off, but I want you to think about applications and what is happening in 2020. What's the big thing that's happening in 2021 uh, that was not there in 2020 or before? What's the new thing that's happening in 2021, or the promise of it kind of started towards the end of the year? What's the big thing we are waiting for in 2021? Forget technology for a minute. What are we waiting for in 2021? The big thing we are waiting for in 2021. Vaccination, yes. So the data, so the vaccines, luckily, we've had research, and vaccines have started coming. And so I know friends in medical industry who are getting vaccinated. So there is some kind of algorithm every country is following, saying, okay, the healthcare workers get it, the seniors get it, and then they have this sequence of who will get it. So eventually it will come to me and to you. So that data is important, right? As to who gets the vaccination, who's deciding that, who is making that decision, who gets, okay, somebody's making that decision that seniors get it and healthcare workers get it, but specifically in the actual execution of it. So I have a student who works, who actually took my IoT class and works in IoT industry, uh, who actually does vaccine delivery. So they have this temperature sensor, and for a box of 100 whales, I think, they have a temperature sensor which tracks that the vaccine is kept at the right temperature. And he did this pre-COVID for regular vaccine for UNICEF. And they track that the vaccines are kept at the right temperature, right from when they receive it from manufacturing, put it in a truck, and then while it goes in the truck, while it goes into a plane, and it goes across the countries into the world somewhere else, and then it's received again at some local government somewhere, and then it goes back into trucks and back to hospitals to storage. So they do this whole thing, and they were saying they still do not do the last mile, which is from there the healthcare system says, okay, this person gets vaccinated. They were tracking kids vaccination at that point, and they don't have the last mile, so they cannot say this vaccine, this entire supply chain of the vaccine, of where it was shipped from the manufacturer to who got it. They don't have that piece. They have this piece of where it was shipped into all the different local regions, and then it finishes there. And then in the healthcare system, they have this as to which kid was given which vaccine, and at what timeline, and that's a different data set. So remember, we talk a lot about data and partnerships and integration. This is one that there is a disconnect. And so the movement of this vaccine from the manufacturing of the vaccine, the supply chain of the vaccine, is one that we're going to see a lot of data is happening. Um, the other thing is the actual who gets the vaccine. So did you hear of a controversy that happened with an AI deciding who gets the vaccine in a hospital here in US recently? Did you hear that news? So this happened at Stanford, where they had an AI algorithm decide who will get vaccinated. So they have to come up with two. Actually, they have got the vaccines. They're sitting in the fridge. They are going to give it to different people. Now, operationally, they have to decide who gets the vaccines, and they need to call that person and then schedule it, and then give them the vaccine. So to make that happen, they had to decide who gets the vaccines, and they had an algorithm, and the algorithm decided that in Stanford hospital, the the management people, the top tier people, would get the vaccine first, ahead of the actual frontline workers. That's what the AI algorithm did. And the actual frontline workers got very upset, and then they actually came out to the street and protested it. And then they said, oh, that was a mistake, and this was an AI. So I want you to think about this, where when you're going to see a lot of this supply chain of the vaccine going around. You're going to see who gets vaccine, who didn't get vaccine, and some vaccine got stolen. I read some news about that. That is likely going to happen, unfortunately. uh, Somewhere in some country, somewhere along the supply chain, um, the AI is deciding. Think of this: if you're building that AI, and you're going to build this as a business person. Remember, I've been talking about no code AI. So AI is not just built by the data scientist. Somebody is actually giving the spec as to what is needed and the problem statement for that. So when you're going through this, when you're hearing all this news, I want you to think about what is your role, because there's a lot of the AI translation roles at the application level, at the operational level, to actually run things smoothly. So in this vaccine operation, there is money, there is cost, there is chaos, and there is loss of customer trust. So in Stanford case, by giving the vaccine, calling the management to get the vaccine over the frontline workers, that actually created an issue, right? And then there is trust to be earned back. So who decides? If you're thinking of building the AI, maybe there is a data scientist who will know to exactly build the algorithm for it, but you have to start with a business problem. And you, again, like we did with the mall example, who's your customer? Is your frontline worker the customers? Who's receiving the vaccine? Suppose I'm waiting to receive the vaccine, and I've not gotten it by April. I'm going to get pretty impatient, because I've been logged in and staying at home for many, many months all through 2020. So I would like some transparency on where, who's got, and how, the hierarchy of who is getting the vaccines, and what is going on. When am I going to get my rank? Is it going to happen in May if I'm not yet gotten it in April, so that I can plan my life around it? And so there's going to be that demand for transparency of this data, of this mobility of data as the vaccine travels around. And they also have to produce enough vaccines, they have to ship the vaccines, they have to safely distribute the vaccine, then they have to run the algorithms, then they have to do the distribution at different levels. In US it's different because of our healthcare system, in other countries it's different. So I've heard a lot about what is the cost of this vaccine and the government bearing the cost. So far that's what I've heard in every possible country. Tell me if you hear anything different. So tell me if that's an interesting topic that you want to see more information about. So coming back to wrap up, we started looking at 2020 changed things. It made us more adaptive to certain technologies, and Aishatu just showed up. So NLP is one we discussed, that we are more receptive to chatbots. And Aishatu is working on a chatbot which is going to talk a different language that she's going to bring into the fold. And so there's a lot more possibilities of what you can do with chatbots is one. And then we became more receptive as people to delivery bots. And so you can look at the technology layer. So I always say this: when you're looking at CareerPivot, think of it, if you got excited about a technology and say, I love NLP, I love computer vision, I love machine learning, great. Or like me, you just love data, doesn't matter what it is attached to. So that could be one angle from where you come. Or you could actually look at it as, okay, what is my role in this? What I'm interested in this kind of customer. I work in retail. Now delivery bots are in retail. What does that mean? Autonomous vehicles coming into retail. What does that mean? And here we have David Kerrigan. He has a book on retail. Go, when humans stop shopping. So then you should definitely go look at that if you're thinking about retail, or whatever industry you're focused on, where you're coming from. If you bring that business acumen, how can you bring AI to that industry? How can you make sense of the data in that industry? So that could be one angle by which you can look at it. And the most common one that everybody does, how real applications are built, and I'm a big proponent of, is think of the customer. Start with the customer, a business problem you're solving. And even if it looks like amazing tech is not going to come, pave a path, and solve a problem unless a problem is defined and it is built for that and designed for that. So we need you to think about the product management angle, the application angle, and all the business dimension of storage of data, privacy, earning trust, and creating value for that customer. So in the mall example, we said, is it the consumer or is it the mall operator? Who are we building the solution for? Then it changes things, because that pain point changes, and based on the pain, who is impacted changes. Based on that, what are the different use cases, what are the different ways by which you can deploy this same technology, changes. And then you pick one, and then you go build the technology solution, be it AI, be it IoT, be it whatever. So the same thing you're going to see with a lot of this vaccine distribution and vaccine data. So think about your role in all this. So that is what I would say. So before I close out, one thing I would say is think of and we are all here because we are innovators and we love to go change the world. And 2021 is waiting to be changed because we did not like 2020 at all. And so, and when you make change, usually there is resistance. That's what happens with all kinds of digital transformation. But now with 2021, when we're going to change things, there's going to be a receptivity to that, which is different from what we have used to all our life. So that's an awesome thing. So it's waiting for change, and it is waiting for any change to be a good change. So you can have fun making that change. So when you're thinking about what kind of things you can do, we talked about cameras and how cameras are watching us, and computer vision and facial recognition. Don't take that at face value. What if the cameras are not watching us? What you can flip and the cameras can watch for us? Because now we have the infrastructure of cameras in our traffic cameras, we have cameras in buildings, we have cameras everywhere, we have cameras here and at home and all that, right? So what if the cameras can watch for us? So one example is UIB has partnered with Bosch and has done this, where Bosch cameras are watching airports, and it's looking for lines, and it is looking for the queue, right, where there is crowd. And that's putting the cameras to work. It's the same computer vision, cameras watching something. And how do you do that? In fact, I did this at Barcelona Technology School. I'm teaching AI ethics and a module on AIX. And we did this exercise with machine learning UX. And I told the students, hey, we have this night scope, the robot that drives around in San Jose Airport, and 6 groups went to work on MLUX, on how you will create the user experience using this bot. And it's mind blowing. They picked different customers, different applications, different pain points, and they came with different kind of design interface on how this bot will go create value. And it is different from just the bot roaming around and being the, and I said it's a security bot. It is going to provide mall security, but now you go build the MLUX experience. And they came with 6 different MLUX experience, different products and different value prop. It was unbelievable. So I want you to think about that, as if you're a BD person, if you're a product manager, if you're a project manager, if you're this person who loves data. Now you're going to you bring operational experience and business acumen in an industry. Think about what you're going to do, and then there is interesting things to do. So tomorrow I'm actually going to be doing a panel on this. So I will share this back with you guys, and I'll put it on CareerPivot, and I'll obviously put it on LinkedIn. I'm going to do a panel with Ken Haran of UIB about um, autonomous vehicles and buildings and real estate. It's focused more on real estate and property, how it is shifting in 2021. But I'm going to bring how the collision of autonomous vehicles and buildings is happening, because I believe that buildings are static and cars are mobile, and cars could be used as office space. And so I think there's a whole collision. But a bigger thing is, if there is, as the AI in building moves into the car and goes with us, understanding our context, what does that look like? So we're going to have some fun conversations. So if that's interesting, look out for my share on that. And finally, I decided, because of feedback from many of you, I decided to um, start my newsletter back. I didn't want to just renew the old newsletter and continue on with that. So I just thought I will have a short one, share on the topic that we cover each week with Weekly Wednesday, and the recordings and whatever is the latest news analysis stuff. So this is where it is. If you're already not on it, please subscribe, and you'll get it in your mailbox. And I just put this last night about this whole topic of where we are going with 2021. And I know every time we do this, but I don't send a follow-up on where the recording is sitting, though it is sitting in one place in CareerPivot. I just thought we will do some kind of follow-ups and continue on our conversation. So if you're interested in autonomous vehicles and AI and data, and want to understand your space, especially understanding the gap between tech and business, subscribe, and we'll continue our conversation. Otherwise, Sneha will be back here, and she's planning an amazing speaker, and we're going to talk about the mobility of data is going to be our theme starting out for Q1, and we'll continue on next week. And I see Sneha saying thank you. Okay, thanks again, everybody, and have a beautiful year ahead and rest of the week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.